So last week, were you sort of left at the end of the match wondering really what could have been?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, I didn't feel there was anything in the game. I didn't feel like it was a game we was looking like we was going to lose. I mean, I think that's their first attempt on target they score, and then the second one was a penalty, and you kind of, I just remember thinking, how are we losing this game? I didn't think we did enough to win it, but it was just tough conditions, poor pitch, two teams desperate not to lose, battling hard, and all of a sudden you find yourself 2-0 down. And even then, when we got back 2-1, I thought we could go and get an equaliser, but it wasn't to be.
Were you happier overall with the performance last week than what you got against Oxford City?
It's all about results at this point, so I thought we could have done better in some areas. I thought the conditions were tough. I'm not going to come away and say we were brilliant, but I certainly don't think we deserved to lose. So, yeah, you know, I wouldn't say I was happy with the performance, but I thought the boys gave it everything and didn't deserve to lose.
So how's this week been training-wise?
We had quite a few knocks, quite a few dead calves, dead legs, ankles. So the early part of the week was all about trying to get a fully fit squad by the end of the week, and there were certain players we wanted to get certain numbers from in their work physical, because we know we're going to have a sort of run of Saturday, Tuesday games coming up soon with the rearranged fixtures and stuff like that. So yeah, it was all about building up, and then last 2 days we've done match prep and tried to give Maidenhead all the respect they deserve. Do
you have to find a balance with that building up, bearing in mind about the run that you've got coming as well, about that workload?
Yeah. I mean, Paul Harmston's our sports scientist, and you know, he's our go-to for everything. You know, we've got all the live data, all the live GPS, so we've got all the evidence we need to know what we're doing. And we sit down with Paul and we talk about where there's space to deload, where we need to increase, and you know, we also look ahead to the games coming up and work out when it's going to be our last chance to have a freshen up day and stuff like that. So it's all planned, and it gives you the best chance of getting the high level of performance you need.
So how healthy is your squad looking?
Yeah, there's no major, I don't think there's any real sort of injuries on top of what we've had. If anything, having Dan Batty have sort of 2 weeks now, and certainly this week he's been full on training, full on contact, and he's produced some really good numbers, so he's now potentially in contention. So if anything, we're slightly stronger.
Has he come back then a bit quicker than maybe you anticipated?
Yeah, I mean, I would have, if you'd have asked me sort of around the Christmas period going into January, I'd have said, you know, we're probably looking at mid-February to have him back with a chance of being involved. So in real terms, we are probably 10 days to 2 weeks ahead of that, but yeah, it's a positive.
You said about Finlay Barnes after last week's match about giving him game time that will give him confidence. Going forward, how do you intend to manage that?
Well, you just got to look at, you know, we're going to have a run of games coming up soon, I'm sure, where we're going to go Saturday, Tuesday for 2 or 3 weeks. So, you know, you've got to look at systems you might play in certain games and where that would, you know, where Finn would fit into that, whether he's playing as a number 10 or whether he's playing off the right, coming on his left foot, whatever it happens to be. Same with them all, you know, we've got to look at the load on all the players and who we think we can put in certain games, depending on the opposition. You know, there's right times to give someone their debut. He's got to make sure he does his part, which is train exceptionally well every day. You can't just get in because we've got him in now. He's got to earn the place in the team. But I'm sure over the coming weeks that opportunity might arise.
So you're back at home, I think just for the second time this year, isn't it, since New Year's Day? How good is it to be back?
It's great. We need to try and make it, we certainly didn't in the first half of the season, we need to try and make it a place where anyone who comes struggles. Obviously it's a lovely stadium, lovely pitch, and we don't want it to be a nice place to come and play football for the opposition. So hopefully we can do that tomorrow, because we're going to have a few coming up with the Dorking game rearranged and a filed game. So, you know, add that to the fixtures we've already got, and we might have a few, over the course of the coming month, we might have a few home games.
I guess your hands are tied to a degree, but as manager, how much input do you get on when these games are rearranged?
A little bit. I think, you know, you have certain parameters with the league. You know, they like fixtures to be, I think it's 42 days, something like that, from when the original fixture was. So, you know, you try and agree with other clubs, you look at your schedule and theirs, and you try and come up with the next available date. And if both clubs agree, it should be simple. Sometimes some clubs say, no, I can't do that. And And if it's ever like that, you know, I don't get too involved in it. We just go back to the league and just say, well, look, we've said yes to this date, and you know, it's up to you. If you're happy to let a certain club not play, then we'll find the next available date after.
So on to your next game, Maidenhead. What do you make of them?
He does a great job every year, Alan Devonshire and his staff. They're just one of them teams that are capable. You've seen it. They've, you know, in the past they've beaten Notts County, they've beaten Wrexham, they've beaten teams at the top, Chesterfield, and you know they can beat anyone. And on other days, you know, they can lose, and you go, oh, we didn't expect them to lose. So I think they've got threats. They're a very big, powerful team. I think watching them this season, they certainly get the ball down a little bit more than they have in the past. They've got goals in them. You can see that. I think they've been on a decent run. But certainly with their wingers, the trickery and the pace, they've got massive threats. So, you know, we've done our game plan like we will with all teams. I look at my team's strengths and my team's weaknesses, and sometimes you have to look and go, if the game evolves this way and it becomes this sort of game, you know, we could cause our own problems, and we've got to make sure that doesn't happen. So, yeah, we're ready. Well, I've got them as ready as I can. Now it's up to them to go out tomorrow and deliver. And
the question that we seem to ask every week: any player movement? Obviously, the transfer window is closed in the Football League. Will that have any positive knock-on effects for you?
Yes and no. We, you know, the chairman, the club have been very supportive. You know, we have put in offers for players, and good offers, and for good players, and for different reasons, whether it's geographically or the player, his own personal situation. We couldn't get him over the line, but the club have been very supportive. But you know, we don't want to. We've signed a lot of players in the summer, and we don't want to panic buy and get it wrong again. So yes, we're still looking. Yes, I believe that we can still get one or two in that might fit what we need, and then conversations are ongoing. You know, the window's just shut, and it takes a week or so for people to go, right, okay, now let's look at what options there are, and we might be able to pick up on that.
Lovely, thank you very much.
To a certain extent, against Hartlepool, how frustrating is it that actually missed chances and mistakes cost you the game rather than being outplayed?
Yeah, it is. It's part of football, though, isn't it? That's what happens. It's not nicer, because there's no nice way to lose. I hate losing. So it's, when you look back, it's more acceptable to say the boys gave everything, and if we'd have taken that chance and if we'd have done that, we could have. You know, I think Depot's had a great header middle of the goal. So I just think there was some moments, but you know, when you look at the structure of the team, the work ethic, the way they're fighting for each other, the way they're defending, you kind of go, there isn't too much wrong there, and I've just got to sort of keep them going and keep them believing and hope we can go on another run, because you wanted to keep that run going we was on, and if we can do that, you know, we can achieve what we need to.
And when you're analysing the game, how fine a balance is it between obviously addressing the issues but not having a blame culture?
Yeah, well, we don't have a blame culture, not at all. So, you know, ultimately there'll be, more often than not, strikers will be tasked with scoring the goals and not missing the chances, and goalkeepers and centre backs, whatever, will be tasked with the other end, and they'll be the ones that are in the positions more often than not where the goals happen. But as a team, we're all responsible for keeping the ball out of our net and trying to create the good moments where we can score goals. But it's football. Football doesn't work perfectly. It never does. I thought in difficult conditions last week, the boys run themselves into the ground, a lot of sore bodies after the game. And they've scored with their first attempt on target and the second attempt on target. And sometimes that's football, and it's hard to take.
On the face of it, Maidenhead are just average, really, 13 points from 13 games away, but they've just beaten fourth place Solihull Moors. So they're a dangerous opponent, aren't they?
Yeah, and I just said then, loads of threats, you know, a big powerful team, threat from set plays and long throws as well, but you know, that when they get the ball down and the game becomes open, the wingers and Nathaniel George, players who can really excite, can hurt you. And you know, they've got good energy. Like I say, they're the sort of team that can beat top of the league, and you go, wow, where did that gap result come from? But they do it every season, and Alan does a great job. So you know, the boys have got about it, and all we keep talking about is our high level of performance, both physically, tactically, mentally. We need 17 of them.
Have you got a full squad to pick from, more or less?
More or less, yeah. As I said earlier, Dan Batty's been back training now, so he's in contention to be in and around the squad. And we're going to need him because we're going to be going Saturday, Tuesday, I'm sure, coming up for a number of weeks. So, yeah, it's going to be a real challenge.
And the fixture's designated as a football versus homophobia fixture as well, and Yorvik Radio are partnering with the foundation to raise awareness of this. Have you seen changes in the attitudes throughout the years that you've been in football, and is it a lot better now?
Yeah, it had to be. I just think the world's changed, and for the good. Nobody should be subjected to any sort of racism, homophobic. They shouldn't, sexism. None of that should happen anymore. Life has changed dramatically, and equality all around the world. And a football place, a football stadium, can be quite an intimidating place, and it can be a place where people can hide behind the fact that they're in a crowd. But people should flag it. It should be a safe place to come and a place to enjoy a sporting event.
And I'm guessing the football club do a lot of work with the foundation as well to eradicate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been part of it for, since my playing career, which I don't want to say how many years because it might show how old I am. But, even from my playing careers, I remember years ago, wearing the T-shirts and the start process of kicking out racism and stuff like that. And to see how many improvements have happened. It's still not perfect and it still needs to get better. But hopefully as society develops, it's going to be totally eradicated and people won't talk about it anymore.
Good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Neal, you speak quite highly of Alan Devonshire. Obviously he's been in football for a very long time. What are your past meetings with him like?
I've had lots, mostly when he's been at Maidenhead. He's a good character, Alan Devonshire, and I don't know, those, you're probably too young to remember, but he was a hell of a player. He really was at West Ham, superb player. So, yeah, it's great to come up against his teams. And like I say, they're the sort of team, I've had Notts County at home and they beat us 3-2. I've seen them beat Wrexham when they got promoted. You've seen them win games against teams you wouldn't expect them to, but then lose games against teams you wouldn't expect them to as well. And I'm sure that's part of, budget restrictions and stuff. But every year, Alan's job is to keep them in the league, and the recruitment they do. And the work they do to make sure their team's competitive every year is excellent.
They're coming off the back of a quite impressive victory over Solihull Moors. Is it going to make it more difficult for you because the confidence will be just that level higher for them?
Possibly. You can have it both ways. We was due to play Dorking a while back when they'd got beat 5-0 in the cup, and you've seen them now. They've gone and won a couple of league games more or less on the trot. So you can be a wounded animal, and you could be full of confidence. I look at it as my job isn't to worry about the opposition like that. I can't control that. I can control the work I do with my team and trying to make my team go there cohesive, full of energy, high level of performance, and then we'll try and adapt as the game goes on to any problems we might face.
Looking at your team, a player that hasn't really been mentioned much recently, Leviando, how is he progressing from his back injury?
Yeah, it's a long one. We tried to get him back, before Christmas, and it flared up again and hadn't healed properly. So we've had to take a step back again, and he's on a special programme. Whether Levy can get himself back and fit before the end of the season with the injury he's had is anybody's guess. But unfortunately, since I've arrived, he'd first fractured his back, and it's ended up being virtually a season-long injury.
You've mentioned quite a lot how you're already sort of looking towards the summer in terms of signings and potential players to play for you. Have you sort of started opening up any conversations for potential new contracts of players who might be out in the summer?
No, I think the club's stance on that at the moment is that we need to get safe, and if you start thinking about, right, let's offer him but not him, but it can upset the apple cart. I think everybody at the club, players should understand that the club needs to get safe. Everyone needs to improve and show what they can do and show that that they can be part of the future, and then let the club make them decisions as the season draws to an end. But first and foremost, we need to make sure we're in the right league.
Obviously, you do all your loan reports as well. Have you been impressed with Sam Sanders on loan at Truro City? Because he's quite regular there.
We've had feedback. We get footage, we get reports back from the manager. So who said he's done well at that level. It's very difficult. It's the same with Finn. You send him down to National League South or National League North, and when they come back up, it's obviously that next level, as you know, because a lot of the teams have got promoted out of them leagues are down the bottom now. So it shows that it's a big step up. And the best time for us to see players like that will be, in the summer when they're back in amongst the group.
You've already touched on it a little bit, but with the EFL January transfer window closing, Does that affect any of your transfer business in terms of players might now become available?
Well, what it affects is if you wanted to loan a player from the Premier League, you had to do it in the transfer window. So outside of that, it doesn't affect us too much. You know, if we still wanted to go and buy a player that somebody wanted to sell, we're in the position to be able to do that. It's like I say, it's got to be the right player. We are still actively looking for maybe one or two, but if there's no one better than what we've got available, we won't sign that one or two.
Last one from me. Tyler Cordner hasn't got as many minutes as he might have wanted recently. What are the plans with him? Obviously, he's just not been involved really.
Well, I can only pick 11 players. So, you know, I've got a 23-man squad, so there could be any one of 12 players that you could talk about saying that they're not getting a game. And ultimately, when the team's gone 8 games unbeaten, you don't change too much. You know, the defence has been, I think, over the last 8 games, one of the best records as far as goals conceded in the league. And Tyler has to do what I've asked him to do, which is work incredibly hard on the training pitch, make sure his fitness levels, his body conditioning, everything's where it needs to be, defend well in training, and when his opportunity comes, take it and let somebody else be the one that's not happy because he's been left out of the team. And that goes for everybody. Now, we're going to be coming up Saturday, potentially, as this month draws on. You know, who knows, I might need to rotate the squad to keep the freshness.
Thank you very much.
Neil, another chance on Saturday with Maidenhead United to pick up 3 points. A couple of points and 5 places above York City. How are you approaching this one?
Well, it's a chance. It's a home game that we have to try and put our best foot forward in and win games. You know, we've got 17 games now, and you can't waste any games. You know, and for the lads now, I've said we've got 3 months, 17 games. We need high performances, and our whole training regime will be about that. So yeah, you know, I'll take a scrappy 1-0 win happily. It's about trying to pick up the points. But you look at this table, and teams down the bottom are winning. 1 minute you look like you're starting to pull away, the next minute you're back in it. And that's why I try not to get too hung up on the league and focus on the fact that we need 17, 18, 19 points and just focus on them.
You must feel we're a tougher proposition now than what we were when you met them in November.
We're in a better place, yeah. I think we've increased a lot of things. A lot of things are better at the football club. We've got better options in the forward areas, certainly with the additions of Billy and Will. You know, obviously we've got Finn back. I think the defence over the last few weeks has looked more stable. We haven't been opened up. Having Dan Batty back in the squad makes things better. So I think we're better. Can we improve? Yes. Do we need to? Yes. You know, but my job's, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the next 2 months, 2.5 months, and my job's to make sure that the boys are up for it and there's a smile on their faces and we don't get too down on defeats, and we keep chipping towards that total so that we can take a deep breath and assess and start to push forward next season.
Are you tempted to give Finlay Barnes the start this weekend? Maybe giving others a chance to recharge batteries?
Well, we've had a week to recharge batteries. It's not something I look at and go, oh, I'm tempted to do that. We watch training, we assess the team we're up against, where their strengths and weaknesses are. And like I say, I'm sure Finn's going to get his chance, whether that's tomorrow or whether it's in the next few weeks, who knows, depending on shape, styles and what we're going to do and what the opposition bring to the party. So there's a lot of players training well at the moment, so if that continues, I've got a good headache compared to earlier in the season when we had that many injuries. People were in the team by default.
There's been a lot of chatter this week, maybe reading more into your comments about recruiting or not further players. Are you happy with the squad you've got that'll take you to where you want to get by April?
I'm very happy with the squad I've got, but I would still love to add to it. So it's got to be adding the right people, it's got to be adding the right positions, the right balance. So yes, I'm happy with the squad, but I'm not saying I'm happy with the squad, that's it. I'm saying if there's a good player that we think can enhance us, whether it be a loan, whether it be a permanent, it's somewhere we're looking constantly. I mean, if I showed you the messages on the recruitment group, it's constant analysing, constant conversations going on. So yeah, I'm not saying, you know, and I've said in an earlier interview that the owners have been brilliant. We actually have had 2 or 3 offers in for different players that we couldn't get over the line, mostly for geographical reasons. But they would have been superb signing. So we haven't just sat on our backside, sat on our hands and said we're happy. We're constantly trying to improve this football club, and if we can get one or two of the right players in, we will.
There was a good deal of surprise last weekend when Cedric Main left for Darlington. Quite quickly it appeared last Friday. Was it as quick as it appeared, and was it a good deal for York City?
Very good deal for York City. We'd had offers, 2 or 3 clubs had offered for Cedric. We said we want to have a look at Cedric, we want to keep him here. And yeah, it happened quite quickly. So I think Cedric just came to see me one day after training and said, I think I need to go, I'm 26, I need to play, blah blah blah, which I respect. And I said, okay, well, you know, there's lots of teams that put offers in. You know, you need to go away and look at if one of them's for you. And you know, very quickly that happened.